We're going to look at factoring by grouping. What that means is, first we're going to look at this expression. Do you notice, can you see if there's a greatest common factor of, how many terms are in this expression? 4 terms. Do all 4 terms have a GCF?
No.
Some of these terms are divisible by 3, but which one isn't?
16.
16 is divisible by what?
2.
And?
4.
Okay, but 9 is not divisible by 2. Okay, so not all 4 terms have a common factor. Do 2 of the terms have a common factor, and do another 2 terms have a common factor? So that's why we call it grouping. Okay? So if we look at these 2 terms, and we look at these 2 terms, orange is divisible by something, and the blue is divisible by something. We're going to factor this by groups. So 12x squared and 9x squared are both divisible by 3x. Okay, so the first part is going to be, this is divisible by 3x, and this is divisible by 3x, which means that 3x times what brings us back to the question. 12 divided by 3?
4, sorry.
X squared divided by x to the power of 1 is x. Negative 9 divided by positive 3 is negative 3, and then x divided by x, that cancels out. So that is my factoring for the first part. Now, the second group, it starts with a negative. So remember I told you if the first term is negative, factor out the negative. What do they both have in common? Negative 4. Do they have a variable in common? No. So I'm just going to write negative 4. Oops, times, what's 16? Negative 16 divided by negative 4. Positive 4, and then x. Okay. What's positive 12 divided by negative 4? Negative 3. We're not done. What do you notice about this expression? What do you notice about this expression?
They have the same inside.
Yes. This term can be multiplied by 4x minus 3, and this term is multiplied by 4x minus 3. We write this as, the first part is 3x minus 4, because this and this are both multiplied by what? What are both of these terms multiplied by? 4x minus 3. So we can group them together. Both of those terms are going to be multiplied by 4x minus 3. Because we're multiplying 3x times 4x and 3x times negative 3, I'm showing that here, right? And then I'm multiplying, so there's a subtraction. I'm multiplying negative 4 times 4x, which is the next step, and negative 4 times negative 3, which is the next step. That represents the exact same thing. I'm not multiplying 4x minus 3 times 4x minus 3. I'm multiplying this 4x minus 3 by each of these terms, which is what we're showing there. In factored form, you want to write it as a product of 2 things. 5x minus 3 times, that's it. That's the answer. That's factored form. So we're going to factor by grouping again. Which terms have a factor in common? Do ax and ay have something in common? What do they have in common? Good. They can both be divided by a. Do negative 5x and positive 5y have something in common? What do they have in common? Just negative 5. Good. Okay, that's the hard part. So now the easy part. Because the greatest common factor is a, that means a times, well, what's a divided by a? Cancels out. I'm left with x. What's a times x? Ax, right? Minus a divided by a. Good. Negative 5 divided by negative 5. Good. So negative 5 goes in front because that's the greatest common factor. Then x, then positive 5 divided by negative 5. Negative y. What do you notice? When you group, so let's simplify this, write it in factored form, it would be what? A minus 5 times x minus y. That's it. Do all 4 terms have a greatest common factor? All 4 of them? Now, we can rearrange this so that we can group pairs of terms that do have a common factor. So what would you group 14xy with? So we'll group it with negative 21y. Okay, so let's rewrite this as 14xy minus 21y, which means that positive 15 and negative 10x. Okay, so you're able to see which terms have a common factor, right? Now that they're grouped, let's factor. What's the greatest common factor of 14xy and negative 21y? 7y, good. So 7y times what? What's 14 divided by 7? Y cancels out. I'm left with x. Negative 21 divided by positive 7. Negative 3. Y's cancel out. What's the greatest common factor of 15 and 10?
5.
Okay, so plus 5. 15 divided by 5. Negative 10x divided by 5. I should have wrote it in a different order. Okay, let's divide this by negative. It will be. Divide this by negative 5. So positive divided by negative is negative, and then a negative divided by a negative is a positive. Okay, so negative 3 plus 2x is the same as 2x minus 3, right? I have a negative 3 and negative 3. I have a positive 2x and I have a positive 2x. Doesn't matter what order you write it in. What is this in factored form?
5, because minus and minus equals positive.
No, 7y minus 5 and then 2x minus 3.
Made with Doodlecast Pro.